I really want to talk about Farwind and Age of Decay and stuff, because now it seems very unlikely the series will continue, like Age of Encryption, and unlikely that I will make the planned third Age of series. So what I might do is talk about that now while I'm doing this, and then clip it and have that as a separate video that people can then watch. The question of Age of Decay, Farwind, how they're connected, and Age of Encryption as well. So, I've said before that Age of Decay, Age of Encryption, and Farwind Stranded all take place within the same universe. They do. All in the same canon. But the question was always, which came first? And there has been a lot of debate over which comes first, Age of Decay or Farwind Stranded, because Age of Encryption is a direct sequel to Age of Decay. The answer is Farwind Stranded is a sequel to Age of Decay. The way it was gonna go, it's not gonna happen now just because sort of people move on and we're just... basically no one's coming back for it. So we will not be making any more Age of Encryption, and I will not be making the planned third series, which would have been in this is similar to AOD AOE. It would have been AOF, Age of Frontiers, and it would have been focused around Galacticraft. With we would in Age of Encryption, we would have broken free from the book, because if just a quick refresher on the plot of AOD and AOD and AOE, Age of Decay had us going to find Utopia in the books, in the ages that I'd invented. So we went through ages looking for Utopia. We found Utopia, set up there, but then it became corrupted with decay. I'm just going to give full spoilers now, because if this stuff isn't going to be made, I'm going to answer some questions on this. There was decay in in Utopia, and there was like a big question about how this decay got there. It was deliberate. It was a deliberate, active decay by me because I was tired of Utopia. So I left some active decay in Utopia, decay that was supposed to be inert but wasn't, and used that as justification for us leaving once I'd found a way for us to get out. So in a way, I'm the villain of Age of Encryption. And I don't know how or if that actually would have ever come across, but that was how I envisioned it. Yeah, and James died from it. And it was a tragic, miscalculation. I didn't expect him to be away. And as for sort of what happened in Age of Encryption, the plot of that was us going through the encryption layers, fighting our way out of the books, to then reappear in the main world, the real world that we left behind. And what would have happened was we would have sort of re-emerged back onto the mountain we originally left, because in Age of Decay we started off on a mountain and jumped into a portal. We would have come out on the mountain, only to discover that in the time we were gone, the world had ended, and it was just a blasted wasteland. We would have been like, well, what the hell do we do now? And then Age of Encryption would have ended with us, looking up to the sky. And then the third series, Age of Frontiers, would have been focused on Galacticraft, with us going to try and find any survivors in space. And Galacticraft is a mod that I've always wanted to cover, and that was always planned as the third Age of something series. Age of Frontiers would have ended with whoever else was there other than me and Joel going off to do their own thing in space. Probably I probably would have ended up building the Elysium space station, which appears in Farwind, or gets mentioned a couple of times in Farwind. They would have gone off to do that, whereas Joel and I would have gone into business as traders and said, hey, why don't we get a ship together and we can go and do some trading in space. And he'd say, well, all right, what would we call the ship? At which point I'd go, how about the Far Wind? And that's where the series would end. And that was the plan for setting up Far Wind Stranded as a sequel. And during Age of Frontiers, we would have done most of it in such a way that it wasn't entirely apparent if it was a sequel or a prequel. Like, we wouldn't have talked about, no one's ever been to space before. We would have just sort of got on with it, so that even when we're working to get into space, it's not clear if it's a prequel or a sequel. But then in the very last moment, it would have been fairly confirmed if we were getting a ship to call the Far Wind, that would make it a prequel to our trading business in Far Wind Stranded. I did have a Far Wind Stranded sequel planned. I actually had a few ideas I was mulling over. Ended up not doing any of them just because there were other things to do on the channel. Like, there was the one that I was most likely going to do was The Far Retreat, which was in the aftermath of being stranded on the planet. Joel takes me to a holiday resort, essentially. It would have been, hey, look, you're really stressed, so I found the highest rated holiday resort planet in the galaxy, and I'm going to take you there for like a few weeks. So he drops me off on a planet to discover, and I discover sort of after he's gone that it is in fact an abandoned ocean planet. And the plot of that one would have been me again trying to find out what happened and get, find contact and so on. But instead of it being a desolate planet, it would have been an ocean planet. That's basically the plan. That was the plan. So that won't be happening now. Definitively not happening. But yeah, let me know what you thought of that. Whether that matched your predictions. I remember when people were talking about Far Wind Stranded, there was a lot of questions like, was it G6 or G5? Is he G6? Yeah. Is he going to? Was he going to appear in the sequel, etc.? I never had any plans of him appearing in any sequels. There was no proper confirmation about who G6 was. Because my attitude when it comes to writing mysteries in fiction, there should always be an answer, but the answer does not always need to be given. Because I think you can ruin a good mystery by giving the answer. In the case of that, I feel I've given hints, but I've not told you the answer. And the answer would not have been revealed in any sequels. So, you can go check out The Far Wind. Full thing is on my channel. When this is uploaded as a separate video, it will be linked at the end, so you can go check it out then. And I might just put this in the Far Wind playlist just to cap that off. So, I hope you enjoyed the Far Wind and the Far Ages series. It's a shame it came to an end early, but there's plenty more I can do. And I guess I'll talk a little about Voltec as well, because that won't be coming back either, sadly. A common theme in my Minecraft series, because in a lot of ways, sort of that chapter of my character is done now that Far Wind is over and Voltec is over definitively. They're not connected, but they are similar in themes and stuff. And the themes I tend to have in these things is I wasn't there. That I wasn't there to do the thing I needed to do. In a way, you could still have done some of those ideas, just explain that the Matrix glitched out and Joel, Moo, and Jason were lost forever. It wouldn't have been the same. I did consider it, I seriously did, but it just wouldn't have been the same series. What do you mean by not being there for what you need to do? Well, in the Far Ages, as I said, the plot would have been that the overworld devolved into a post-apocalypse in my absence, because canonically in Far Ages and stuff, I am the admin of the world. Logically, if I'm not there on the overworld, that explains why it all went to ruin. I went looking for Utopia, abandoned the overworld, and the overworld fell into a post-apocalypse. It was my job to look after it. And the exact same thing happened in Voltec. I did sort of recycle the plot line of the planned Voltec series. A lot of mysteries in Voltec, like the stuff in the vault, I wrote a very detailed world history, and essentially we went into the vault to hide from the Endermen, James and I. The server, because it was Tek-Town, which Voltec is a sequel to. Tek-Town was on my server that I played with friends. So when we went into the vault, it started the Tech War, TW1, which destroyed the world because the admin was not there to stop it. While we were in there so long, 2 other tech wars happened. I think by the time we came out, there were like cries for help to do with TW3, which was Tech War 3. And it was the idea that because we were in there for so long, everything went to hell without us, or without me specifically, to stop it. And I planned, because I'm very ambitious like this, over ambitious one might say, I planned 3 series of Voltec. The first series was about, it was focused around Hazel's character, who was native to the world. I won't go into the full depths of the story. It was focused on her, and it was about defeating this threat who made an appearance at the very end of the lost episodes that we'd recorded, the Defector, who was trying to... ultimately he was trying to save his own life, but in doing so would have condemned the world. But the central thing of that was about how James and I sort of preserved the old world with the cryopods, and that we were the only ones who could come back to life. It doesn't really matter, it's going a bit deep into it, but the point is that because we decided to hide from the Endermen, I wasn't there to stop the wars. What else is there? Season 2 of Tek-Town would have been focused around James. The sort of the people we worked with, the NPCs we worked with in not Tek-Town, Voltec, sorry, I meant Voltec. Would have been focused around James, where the gun that he abandoned, because if you remember back in Tek-Town, he had a gun that was his pride and joy, and he lost it. It would have been revealed that the gun he dropped was the basis for an entire civilization of people who became obsessed with guns. They found it, they found like a scratched off name on it that was his, and it would have been essentially his guilt that he'd sort of brought about the end of the world again one of the times by leaving the gun there. And then season 3 would have been focused around me. I think actually season 2 of Voltec would have been another Galacticraft focused one, because like I said, I reused a lot of ideas from Voltec for ages. It would have been a Galacticraft focused one where we had to go into space to find some sort of alternate power supply so that the world didn't have to rely on nuclear or something like that. I don't really recall. Season 3 would have been time travel. It would have been focused on me absolving myself of that guilt by travelling back in time and stopping the tech war. And that's where Voltec would have gone. That was the plan for that. Again, 3 seasons. So I had all of these really big ideas and either didn't have the people around, didn't have the time and manpower to do it properly, or just procrastinated so long that I ran out of one of the things I did have. It is a common theme in these things that I failed in my job, because I just think that's a really interesting theme to explore for like the main character. Their central thing is a failure, and I just find that really fascinating. In addition to the way I tended to play those characters in in Age of Decay and Tek-Town, which was this very, I can do whatever I want, I am this like unstoppable force. And underneath all of that is the whole, for as great as you may sort of seem to be, you completely failed to stop these things that were your responsibility to stop. And I think it adds a lot more depth to that as well. So I do have plans, like talking about this has sort of invigorated me more to want to do a GRP series of like Skyrim or Fallout, playing through as a character that I'll like get you to choose. Like, I think I've got 6 characters planned for Skyrim and 4 for Fallout. If that sounds like something you'd want to see, put it in the comments. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the Far Ages and Voltec stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments of the VOD of this, future people. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later. Thank you very much for watching.